Anyway, this is the church we came to where I preached at. You notice the loudspeakers up on top. They have this going over the whole village, all their music. It's their method of evangelism, I think. The people had been there for an hour or two already. They'll spend the whole day. Their services are 3 or 4 hours long. They don't worry about it. They've been singing and so on, and there's the elder on the left is the head elder, and the pastor, I don't think he's there yet. There I am, ready to start my service. The fellow on the right, Dr. Victor Paul, he was educated in the United States at Luther Seminary in St. Paul. He speaks fluent English. He was the former president of the AELC, which is the Andhra Evangelical Lutheran Church, in full fellowship with the ELCA. He was also the president of their seminary. He is now retired. He talked to me not really totally confidentially, but there is great disillusionment in the AELC and Andhra Pradesh against ELCA because of their ordination of women and also now the ordination of homosexuals in the ministry. This is dead set against the Bible and it offends the Indians. And he says there's, according to him, a large group of people in the AELC who would love to come out of the AELC and establish fellowship with the Missouri Synod. I called St. Louis. I'm going to call them again to see if they can pursue this. We're talking a lot of congregations here. This is the inside of the church. The pastor's there on the left, of course. Very simple church. You see they sit on the ground. The men and women do not sit together. Men on the right, women on the left. The lady is reading the scripture there. They love to read the Bible. And they know their Bibles like the back of their hand. You ask about a story, they tell you where it is immediately. It's almost embarrassing for me as a minister. They still got the Christmas decorations. A little bit gaudy, but kind of exciting. This is the pastor. I got the clock up there so the congregation can see how long he's preaching. They told me, and I told you this last week, if you don't preach at least an hour, they feel cheated. They feel cheated. My sermon was an hour. The next week, Dr. Misaki had come and he preached an hour too. They got their money's worth that day. There you can see again the gaudy decorations. Many women cover their heads. Little church way out in the middle of nowhere. There's some of the men praying.
So does somebody interpret for you?
Yes. Dr. Victor Paul, that fellow sitting next to me on the other side, we always have to have an interpreter. And you hope they're getting it right. Now, he's very good. But sometimes, you don't know if they got it right. They always have to give you, too. They've got the Merry Christmas sign on the cross there still. They always have to put a garland on you. The first year I was there, I kept it on. The things were heavy, fresh flowers, stained your clothes. I found out later, when they give it to you, you may take it off right away. Which I did. Yeah.
With the Merry Christmas emblem there in response to an American being there?
You know, they do speak a little English. That's a good question. I never thought of why it's written in English. That's probably because that's where they bought it. Probably got it on the United States, I'm guessing. That came from There's the elder of the church, the pastor.
Pastor Bill,
Yes.
did you administer the sacrament at the service?
They did not have the sacraments on there. I wouldn't have taken it because our synods are not in fellowship. And I told last week they got a big problem in India, big problem with their translation. It was translated by a Baptist back in the 20s or so on. He's a pietist, the Baptists are, they don't drink liquor, so every time the word wine occurs, it's translated grape juice. So they use grape juice in the Lord's Supper, which I do not believe is the Lord's Supper. You do not go changing the elements as I've taught you that Jesus had. That is a major problem that needs to be corrected over there. I don't know how to be done. Dr. Victor Paul did my translation. Nice fellow. Very nice fellow. His children all live in Chicago. A lot of the Indians come to the United States. There he is translating for me again, so you know I was there. I wondered, what is he saying? He seemed fairly into it. There's another. Just so you know, I was doing some work there. You know, I wish I could have taken a picture down in front. You can't see in front of the women. The offerings they bring are little cans of rice. That's all they can afford. The salaries of the pastors are paid by the church body, the Bible Faith Lutheran Churches. It's called BFLC, and they pay the salaries of the pastors. And they are also living on a shoestring. These pastors don't get paid much. And I'm not sure what they get, but they live on a poverty level. For the pastor, I guess. You know, it's not very much. Like they used to get chickens and cows for the pastors here years ago. Is that right? What's that? live by a different time than we do. They weren't worried that this thing was taking its time, so I just got out of the car and chatted with some of the Indians there. A couple knew a little bit of English. They were impressed that I was willing to talk to them. It was like talking American.
Pastor,
Yeah.
do they follow any traditional liturgical forms, or is it?
The IPLC, which is the Indian Evangelical Lutheran Church down in Tamil, which is in Felton, Missouri, Center, uses basically the old Lutheran hymn in their language. They sing our hymns. This place here, up in when they speak Telugu up in Andhra Pradesh, they do not use our hymnal. They use an Indian liturgy, although I can tell when they were going through the Kyrie, it follows the basic historic liturgy. But they don't sing our music. Their music is much different. The only topic that they have is a little hand drum. Where else? Anyway, back. This is the seminary. It's very close to the orphanage. I wish I could have taken more pictures of the whole grounds. The students live here. There are various classrooms there. It has a big fenced wall around it to protect it from the community, I guess. There's a couple of pastors there. This is the classroom I taught in. Like 80 degrees in there. The air conditioner wasn't working, as it generally doesn't. The front two fans worked, the back one didn't. And when the other guy taught, I had to sit in the back and sweat. And finally one of Onesimus, thank God for Onesimus, showed up one day and just stuck the wires in there until it started to work. That's how they do things. It's all right. I taught 3 hours in the morning, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. I taught the book of Jonah. They don't know any Hebrew. I taught it out of Hebrew. They were very excited as I shared with them various things out of the text. I think a few of the fellows were very anxious to maybe start the words in Hebrew. Some of them know a little bit of Greek, but they're basically completely dependent on their Telugu translation, which is a problem. It's not a good translation. Besides the issue with wine, there are other issues with the translation. It's not good. Translated by a Baptist, you can imagine, with all due respect, not much to their theology, the Baptists are pietists, and it shows up in the translation. These men all showed up. There were about 40 men there. They were pastors and seminary students of the DFLC. There are probably, I don't know, maybe 15 or 20 different Lutheran synods, I would guess, in India. It's like the Lutherans were in the United States in the 1800s. And it's gradually come together more and more to now we have basically 3 major synods in the United States. The VFLC is probably the most conservative Lutheran group in India and the most educated. Their pastors are good pastors. Even though they don't know Hebrew and a little bit of Greek, they get some good theological training.
Is there another translation in the works that would be
No,
better for them?
no. I've called my brother-in-law about it, Daniel Price, and also John Fairman, or Robert with the Lutheran Heritage Foundation. I'd like to see them start to work on a translation. But breaking into the culture with a new translation can be very difficult. There is me teaching again, the book of Jonah. There's a few of the pastors during the break, they had tea break. That isn't all of them there, but Mrs. Dossery is sitting there. She's kind of the matriarch of the church. By the way, her husband died 10 years ago. 10 years ago, maybe, he had founded this church. He was educated, got his master's degree, I think, at Concordia Seminary in St. Louis, Missouri, although he was not educated in the Missouri Synod. He was educated over in India. Then I think he studied, at either Lutheran Seminary or the Wisconsin Synod, I don't know for sure, but then went to Concordia St. Louis to work on a master's and doctorate degree. His major was Hebrew and Old Testament, interestingly. But he founded the church, and he still enjoys great respect among the pastors. This is the bishop of the BFLC, Pastor Shala, Bishop Shala, great guy. He and his wife invited me and Pastor Staver to the house one evening. They live on a 5th floor apartment. 6 people live in this 2-bedroom apartment. Very cramped little place. He was very proud of it.